an absolutely enormous loss for this one family. We know that they began their day yesterday celebrating, and we know how tragically that day ended. Vandals allegedly caused damage to a number of spots along the trail, including this map that you see here. We're told that there used to be glass over it, but that was shattered. It's a topic that's been heavily debated over the past years, and now it's at the top of many minds after a particularly deadly racehorse season in California. The rain in Albany today building up on many city streets. Take a look behind me at this medical transportation vehicle that's stuck in this water. And they do say that a witness saw a car flee the area at the time shots were fired. Take a look right here. You can actually see the bullet holes where they hit this house on Windsor Terrace. Those 4 workers are miraculously recovering after suffering non-life-threatening injuries. That's after the truck right here that was blocking and protecting them was hit by that tractor trailer. You can see the serious damage here. This Sleep-a-thon is an annual event hosted by Albany's Homeless Action Committee. Now tonight and this weekend have been issued code blue conditions, which is very dangerous conditions for homeless populations just struggling to stay safe. Definitely mesmerizing, all the people, all the hats, the fashion, the fun. We talked to so many first-timers and even some on the other end of the spectrum, a man who has been coming here for the past 45 opening days.
Nico is 16 and tough on the outside, but he's got the biggest heart.
Alicia DeNovo glows when she talks about her kids. That's why she calls the night of October 28th one of the worst nights of her life.
Terrible. You know, I was in shock when I got the call.
DeNovo learned her son, Nico, was the passenger in a fiery car crash. Police say the driver, 19-year-old Michael Carr, was impaired by drugs when he crashed into 2 other vehicles and into Blessings Tavern in Colony. 95% of Nico's body was burned.
He's not giving up. He won't. He's too tough.
6 months later, he hasn't.
Usually, you know, I go in, good morning, Nick, and you know, some days he responds, some days he doesn't.
But when he does, his family is there to see it.
It's incredible. It's a miracle.
25-year-old Michael DeNovo says he cried tears of joy when he heard his kid brother speak again.
I walk in Nico's room and I say, "Let's go, champ." He gives me a little fist bump every time I do it. 3 fist bumps. Let's go, champ.
Statistically, we're looking at a greater than 90% mortality rate, so he's survived the odds.
Dr. Joseph Drakowski is the burn program director and Nico's head surgeon. He says Nico only has about 5% of skin that's usable to cover 95% of his body, so his staff turns to skin grafting surgeries, not often used.
We take a biopsy and we send it off to a lab, and that lab grows skin for us. Okay, so, and then it comes back in little sheets, and then we can put it back on him.
The surgeries can take hours and are taxing on the many physicians involved, but they say it's more than worth it.
It's humbling. It's humbling, for sure.
Bonnie Siana is one of Nico's nurses. She says the burn unit doesn't see adolescent patients often.
Taking care of him has been more than a typical nurse-patient relationship. I really have grown to love that family.
And when that family feels down, they say it's the one they're rooting for that brings them back up.
I've seen a child who was an incredible fighter communicate his will to live to all of us.
In Westchester, I'm Lynzi DeLuccia, CBS 6 News.
Lynzi, Jeffrey Williams was questioned in a number of cases.
And he was. Now he's almost 60 years old and he's serving at Otisville Correctional in Orange County, and he'll be looking to regain his freedom on Monday. In his 49th year of service, there's one day that Cohoes Assistant Police Chief Tom Ross will never forget.
Just something was way off the first hour.
In January 1988, Ross responded to a call for an 18-year-old missing from her job at a group home.
She had always called her mother, and that night she didn't get the call.
Carolyn Lonzak's remains were found 8 weeks later. Leads brought police to Jeffrey Williams, who lived nearby.
It's just a horrendous crime.
The case was quickly passed to state police, who knew Williams well.
I had been called to a home in southern Saratoga County. A woman had been tied up and raped.
Retired State Police Sergeant John Curry responded to the first crime Williams was arrested for at 19 years old in 1980.
We started talking about the rape, and and he had confessed that he had been there.
This began a long history of conversations and confessions, Curry says, from Williams.
Hurting women and his urges and the things that kind of drove him.
But at least one person still defends the now 59-year-old.
The forces of law enforcement were out to get.
Terry Kinlan defended Williams a number of times.
I've never been quite clear on what it was that attracted the police interest in him.
Williams' record with police dates back, beginning with the 1980 sodomy arrest. He served about 7 years for that before he was released and accused of assaults, violated his parole, and was put in jail for stealing a rocking chair from a garage. While serving time in the early 90s, Williams was found not guilty for one murder, but was convicted for killing Carolyn Lonzak.
He was not a very conventional person, but he was, in my estimation, not a dangerous person at all.
Kinlan says without, quote, great proof, he doesn't believe Williams to be guilty at all. Do you think that this man should be paroled?
Absolutely. Unquestionably. I don't think he should have been convicted in the first place.
Current Albany County DA David Soares wrote to the parole board.
This is one of those individuals who I don't believe is qualified to walk among citizens.
There were suspicions Williams was also involved in the disappearance of Karen Wilson, a UAlbany student, in 1985.
You still have people working at the New York State Police and working in these police departments that continue to barrel through.
Former Sergeant Curry hopes the board continues to serve justice, with Williams remaining locked up. Do you believe that he's changed in his time in prison?
Jeffrey will never change. Jeffrey wants to hurt women. He doesn't like women. I don't think he'll change.
Now, we have spoken with the Lonzak family over the phone. They too wrote letters to the parole board, and while they said it was too painful to sit down and speak on camera, the one thing they did ask us to share was that they hope to see Jeffrey Williams serve in prison for the rest of his life. Greg and Ann. We begin with continuing coverage of the storm damage from last night's flash flooding in Albany that you see here. The chairman of the Rensselaer County Legislature claims local contractors are owed hundreds of thousands of dollars for their work at senior housing complexes in Rensselaer. Well, it was a fight every step of the way today, but a fight against cystic fibrosis and the annual stair climb at the Corning Tower in Albany. Welcome back. Time check for you, 7:13 this morning, and finally we have a nice lit up view of the beautiful downtown Albany. An incredible job by the Amsterdam Fire Department saving man's best friend from a terrible fate, and it was all caught on camera. After the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, furloughed federal workers return to their jobs tomorrow for the first time in 35 days. The demolition on a downtown building from the 1800s that partially collapsed last week was completed today in Albany. You can see it here. Now, while we may see some flurries tonight, as Craig was saying, Saratoga's annual Flurry Festival took place all weekend, giving people a reason to grab a partner and get out of the house. Craig, it is definitely humid out there right now. I know we went outside for a little bit, saw some showers. Is that going to cool it down? The Saratoga County Sheriff's Office is investigating a second hit and run that happened in Half Moon this morning. On one of the hottest days of the year, residents are still asking, will more be done next summer to help residents cool down? Well, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tonight for more headlines and updated forecasts and all that and more. See you then.